Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today you're going to get a story that many of you need to hear, especially this time of year. It's why I chose to lose out on making another $100,000 in my business this year. And this was a conscious choice. And some of you might need to make this choice yourself, or you might need to make this choice in reverse. So we're going to get to that. We know that there are about 2 months left in the year. We also know that most of you, myself included, made ourselves lots of promises during quarantine life. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to start my podcast. I'm going to really go all in on my business. I'm going to use this extra time to do X, Y, and Z, get in the best shape of my life. And now's about the time where many of us are like, well, that's fun. I really didn't get where I wanted to go. I didn't go all in on it. And now it really doesn't feel good. Now, I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media going, 2021 is my year. I'm going to erase 2020. Like I'm throwing out my 2020 planner, or I never even bought one. Or I've already in June bought my, 2021 planner. And I know a lot of that is just in humor, but behind all sorts of sarcasm and jokes is always, some form of truth. And here's the thing, when we put that much pressure on a year, it doesn't normally end well. There was a lot of pressure, if you guys recall, on 2020. I mean, just think of the magical sounding fact that it's 2020, new decade, new you. I mean, I was putting out content where I was like, 2020 rhymes with money, which it does. And my business actually made more than it ever has in 2020 because I believed it would and because I took action that was in alignment with those beliefs. But that's a whole nother episode. So there was a lot of pressure on 2020, period, end of story. And the fact that, it was an election year, corporations had a lot of pressure. So we saw what happened. So putting that pressure on, okay, now after all this is over, I keep hearing that too. After all this is over, meaning COVID, right? And all the stuff going along with it. Then I'll go all in, meaning once I don't have to homeschool my kids, once the gyms are back open and I don't feel like a slug, once I can travel and get re-inspired. Yeah, that's just another set of excuses. There's always a set. This one was just an easy grab to pick up. I just have to call those of you out who are going down that path. It's just an easy set of excuses to grab. So we're going to put it down at least for this episode. And I want you to hear my thought process on why I chose to let go of an additional $100,000 of revenue into my business in 2020. Now, those of you who are longtime listeners, shout out to you all. Thanks, Posse. You know that Mama loves cash and I don't turn down cash unless unless there's a catch to that cash, right? Something doesn't feel good, something shady, it's out of integrity. I didn't used to operate like this. I used to operate like thirsty as hell. And I know a lot of you operate like that right now. And I'm not judging you for it. I mean, when I first started my first business 12 years ago, the first goal was to be able to quit my corporate job, right? So I took every single client that came to me, which by the way, were 2 clients in 18 months. Thank you. Because I had like this, probably a desperate energy. I don't know if it was desperate. It was more like, because I wasn't desperate for cash. Like I could pay my bills. It was a thirsty energy. You know, it was like, oh, I've got to have this. I need to quit. I have to have this by this certain date. This has to happen. I see a lot of women do this pressure around like having kids, right? Like, oh, I'm 30. And I'm not had kids and I'm not married yet. And then there's all this pressure. And then if you go out in the dating world, by the way, I did all this. You go out in the dating world and you have, even though you never mention it, 'cause you know that'll make like people run for the hills. Like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Do you have any siblings? And by the way, within the next, 12 to 18 months, I would like to procreate a human into the universe with you. Thank you. As long as our last names like are in alignment. Okay, I didn't go that far, but you know what I'm talking about. And it doesn't matter, where you're from, what sex you are. We all put pressure around like milestone birthdays, things like that. Like, I can't believe I'm 35 and I'm still living in my mother's basement. By the way, there's a new reality show that is coming out. I'm always going to keep you updated on very intelligent things. And I might botch the title, but it's something like Mama's Boy or something like that. I think it's on TLC, which is the same network as 90 Day Fiancé. Shout out to that show. And yeah, there's a lot of people living in mom's basement. That's all I have to say. Like, this is going to be an episode of codependency that must be watched. I know I'm going off on a tangent. I may be slightly over caffeinated, which is a rare occurrence. So just take advantage of it. Almost as rare as when I think it was a solid week there, maybe 2, where I recorded my episodes high as fuck on prescription cough syrup. That was really fun. I'm sure you guys can go find those. I think it was actually this time last year. I think it was October. It's very entertaining. You can tell because my voice is super raspy. Anyhow. Okay, let's get back to the damn point. Calm down, Tiffany. Let's get back to it. Deep breaths. So even though I'm all about having the cash, I used to be thirsty for it. I used to take whatever I could get because I needed to pay the bills. I wanted to get out of corporate America. The problem is when we're so thirsty for it, even if our reasons are justified, putting food on the table, not losing our apartment, whatever, it repels people. No one likes that feeling. It's gross. People can feel it. They might not call you on it because they don't need to. It's not worth their time. Even people close to you might not call you on it. You might even have a coach you've paid for that for whatever reason doesn't call you on it. I certainly will in a loving way. When I see that energy, we're not always able to tell when we're in that energy, right? So that's why it's so important we have people who are unbiased around us that can pick up on that. Because you could go a long time. I went 18 months with that energy, and that's why I only had 2 clients. It's that kind of chasing energy. And I know none of you like feeling that either. And you can have a ton of money in the bank and still get in that energy. It's really ego driven. I got into it. I would say there was a couple points in 2019 I got into that energy because of my ego wanting to hit a certain financial milestone in my first full year in business with ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. So my ego was like, we have to hit this marker. It's also my Enneagram 6 thing. It's like, we need to hit this marker by this time. And if we're not hitting it, blah, 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 blah. This happened in my launch with my Selling with Soul program in February of 2020. I started down that path, but I was at least able to catch myself where I was like, ooh, we know we don't attract abundance from this energy. So if you kind of feel like you're in that kind of thirsty, chasey type energy, or maybe this is what you needed to kind of snap you out of it, Okay. Listen really closely here. So I launched Selling with Soul as a course, meaning there was no like live element of me, right? A signature course for the first time in February this year, teaching people how to sell in a way that feels good, where you don't feel annoying, pushy, or sleazy for regardless of what specialty that you're in. This works across the board, teaching my emotional-based sales techniques, which I'm paid tens of thousands of dollars to teach in corporations. So fantastic course, professionally shot all and edited, all the things. And I was really excited to launch it. It launched, it went great. It didn't go, of course, as great as I wanted, because I realized and I got feedback, because I'm humble enough to ask for feedback and not take it personally. I mean, it still was a 5-figure launch. And I was like, why wasn't this a 6-figure launch? Because I know, as much as I hate math, I can do math based on my email list size, my audience size, my engagement, how other things have sold. It was realistic for me to say like I could sell 100 of these, right? So what happened? I took a step back, asked all the questions, and people wanted me to take them through it, like there to be a live element at that price point. And I go, okay, that's fair. And I had to really sit with it for a while. I said I'm either going to launch Selling with Soul only one time a year or maybe 2 times. I never made a promise it was twice. So I took quite some time, discussed with my team, and, in the summer, we were like, okay, this is how we would launch it in October. We're going to launch it not as a course. It's a true program. It's my signature program where you are going through this. I am teaching you my emotional-based sales techniques live. You're getting me live. You're getting the modules. You're getting all of my sales scripts word for word in order to do high ticket sales, masterminds, events, retreats, one-on-one coaching, high-level group coaching, high-level packages if you're a medical professional, high-level packages of any kind, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You could be in the beauty industry, whatever. These work. So really excited about it. Knew what language I needed to change. I love including like these amazing bonuses, and I have some really amazing out of the box thinkers on my team. I hate when people say team, but it is a team, so I have to say it. I don't know why it annoys me. It's kind of like my team. I think it annoys me because I remember when I didn't yet make enough money to have one. And I kept hearing people go, my team. And it's like, well, that must be nice, bitch, but I'm a solopreneur and I'm doing it all myself. And I don't have the extra resources right now to have a team. So don't be telling me to outsource this and outsource that. It's like not realistic depending on your situation. I think a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about and you're nodding your head. So just know when I say team, it's like, I get it. I know how annoying it is. But I mean, I could also say the people who work for me. All right. The people who I've hired. So we've come up with some like really cool bonuses. I'm all about legit swag. I hate basic swag. I hate basic anything. But it's like, you're not going to get, you can ask the people who've taken Selling with Soul, like you're going to get like a legit swag box, like stuff you'll use, not just stuff that's cheap that kind of like makes you feel good because a box is full, but stuff that actually like costs real cash. That's fun. So we got all excited. We're all excited to launch it. And then comes September, and I took a trip to Cabo with my best friend for my birthday. I had to get the fuck out of Los Angeles. I couldn't, the lockdown life is just not working for me. And I was willing to, test a short flight from LA to Cabo. It's like 2.5 hours. And just to kind of test and see how the airline experience was with a mask. I'm glad I picked somewhere short with a flight. I would not have wanted to have wear a mask for much longer than that. Maybe I could do a 3.5 hour flight. But I also knew and I felt called that I had to go somewhere because that's always where I get my best ideas, where I can really listen to my body and hear myself because I'm not distracted by all of the things, all the objects, all the stuff while I'm out frolicking about doing all sorts of things in the places where I travel to. So what came up for me, and I remember sharing this with my best friend, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling a lot of resistance about launching Selling with Soul again this year. Like, I actually have anticipatory anxiety knowing that as soon as I come back from this trip, I'm going to have to go into like full blown pre-launch mode. I mean, full blown, because for those of you who've not launched something or have not launched something successfully, the most time-consuming and energy output of a launch is in the pre-launch. It's not while the cart is open. To me, that's the fun part. That's the part I can easily teach you guys inside, things like my program, Selling with Soul, or private coaching with me. But it's the pre-stuff. It's the tedious. We need to make sure we have this sequence of emails. We need to make sure the sales page looks like this and the tech is working and like all the shit most of us, like, our head spin. As simple and straightforward as I keep it, it's still a lot of tedious stuff. So I was getting so much resistance to that. If I could just go straight to the cart is open and buy the damn thing, because I know how good it is, and you really want to make money, like, this is it. I'm not holding some secret back and telling you at the end of this, oh, now you have to buy this if you really want to know. Like, this is it. Like, this is exactly how I've had over $100 million in sales transactions. I would love to just do that. And I know a lot of you would too in your businesses, because you know how good your intellectual property is that you have to offer. You know that you have like a great method or process and you know that it works. It's like, can't I just tell the people, like, you need to get this. If this is your problem, you need to get this. Trust me, just get it. I wish that worked and you could just do that. Would it work if you were someone like a Tony Robbins or a Gary Vaynerchuk? You would have a lot of sales just doing that as someone who's that well known. However, even people who are known like that, this has been proven over and over again in digital marketing. You make 5 times, 10 times, even 50 times the amount of money in a launch of any kind by doing the whole proper launch strategy that I teach. You really do. Even the big people do the same thing. That's why you see all the hype before a movie and you see all the celebrities on press junkets, which they hate, by the way. And I used to be a reporter for press junkets for E! News. Paid like, I think, $11 an hour or something. Thank you. That was before E! Was like, the E! It is today. That was when like Joan Rivers was on it. If you guys remember, when she was on the red carpet and she'd kind of be mean. God, that wouldn't work at all now. Remember how mean she was? Even though she did it with humor, but it was mean to celebrities, like how they looked and stuff. I remember when I was an intern there, we were on the red carpet. I think it was for Golden Globes. And I was like they call it a talent wrangler. Some of you who are in PR are familiar with this. Yes, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it's an entertaining story. So anyway, most of you are like only 1/3 through your workout right now for the most part. So you have a ways to go. Take a screenshot, by the way, share in your Instagram stories and tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany if I just totally nailed it, that you're like about 1/3 through your workout at this moment, or 1/3 whatever multitasking thing you're doing. So I was a talent wrangler, and what that means is when the reporters are on like a red carpet, someone has to go and wrangle the celebrities and bring them to the reporter, because those celebrities are being called out, like, come here. Let's say it's like, I don't know, like Julia Roberts or something. It's like, Julia, come here. Julia, NBC, we want to talk to you. Julia, extra TV, come talk to us. And a lot of these celebrities on the red carpet know some of these more well-known entertainment reporters, so they'll go to them first, or they'll just miss them. So you have to spot them and like wrangle them. And so I knew it was starting and I was getting prepared to go wrangle. Like they actually tell me who specifically I really need to wrangle. So I'm like, I'm hyper vigilant. Like if I miss wrangling them for Joan, it's not going to go well for me. And I remember I spotted, God, I'm just spacing out on the celebrity at the time. It was like definitely a hot ticket celebrity at the time. And I spotted the celebrity and people hadn't started calling the celebrity's name yet. And I was like, oh my God, I can get the first grab. And Joan taps me on the shoulder. And I was like, I literally was about to go. And I thought she was going to tell me like, hey, they're over there. And I turn around and she's like, gum. And she hands me her chewed gum to, I don't know, throw out or hold on to. And I was so caught off guard and like so weirded out that I still wrangled that celebrity, but by like a nanosecond. So that was a story. I don't know why I went off on that story. So where I'm wanting you guys to hear this is I had to make a decision if I wanted to stay in that energy of, oh my God, this anticipatory anxiety of, oh, I have to do all this pre-work stuff. I know where I was going with the E thing. Oh my God, I'm so over-caffeinated. I was just making a point that like for movie premieres and book launches, all these celebrities do press junkets. And most of them hate the press junkets, but they have to do them. So there's all sorts of pre-stuff done for books, for movies, even ones that are going to be blockbusters. So guess what? That doesn't mean, so you think you can get away with not doing it? I don't think so, honey. Okay. So I had all this anxiety and I think, my best friend said something to me like, well, why do you have to do it? Like, why do you have to do it? And she was not saying it in a judgmental way, just really good friends know to ask you questions to get you thinking in a different way. And I go, well, technically I don't have to do any of this, which I don't. I already have a 7-figure business. Like I don't have to do any of this, but I do have to because it's my heart calling and soul calling. And I go, well, I guess I don't have to. But I did want to launch this again in 2020 because it'll be launched as a program instead of a course. And it's kind of like, I know you guys need it and it's good time of year and all this stuff. And then I started going, but you have a point. Like, if I'm coming from that energy that it's already going to be such a burden, will it really be successful? And is that really fair to you guys who are taking it? That by the time comes to start the course and the program with me, I'm already like super exhausted and wiped out. I don't think that's really fair. That's out of integrity with what I teach. And so all these thoughts were going through my head. So I come back from the trip and I was like, you know what? I need a gut check. I need to make sure I'm not just being lazy because, I can just luxuriate. And I have the privilege and, I say privilege, but I also fucking worked for it. I have the privilege of having a lot of money in the bank to where I don't have to do it, right? I don't have to do it to pay the bills, but I just needed to check myself because I can be lazy. I can luxuriate. I can put stuff off, especially stuff that can seem tedious and hard. So I called a team meeting. I was straight up. I was humble, straight up, and I go, here's what I'm processing, and I want you guys to feel comfortable sharing the truth. And what we came to is that, yeah, you're right. Like, this doesn't make sense. You want to bring the best energy, and if you are getting that strong of a resistance, then it's probably best to trust that, and it's not the time. And there was a lot more talked about with that. Because then I went, okay, so then when can we launch it? Because if I don't have a date, that's very dangerous. So for those of you who procrastinate and those of you who luxuriate, you need to have a date, and you can't be a date that you have just to yourself in your head. You have to put the date out there to like your audience, to your coaches. If you do have a team or people who work for you or a person who works for you, share it with them, share it with friends in your life. If you're in my ProjectME Posse group coaching, group coaching membership, share it in there because it keeps you honest. So then you don't start sliding that date. It's kind of like the lie of, oh, I'll start eating kale and doing yoga every day on Monday, right? So we decided, and we were vibing, all of us were vibing January. And that felt good. I felt for the first time that I could take a deep breath. It was like, oh, yes, that feels so much better. And I was no longer pining over, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Because that eats up and burns so much energy. It's like putting yourself in self-purgatory, right? Where you're indecisive. All of us get like that sometimes, but to not nip it in the bud. Is it the bud or the butt? Nip it in the bud or nip it in the butt? Tell me. I don't know. I really don't know. I would prefer it to be butt, but I don't think it is. And why is it bud? Is that like a flower reference? I don't get it. But to not make a decision in either way eats up so much energy, and it's just such a time sucker. So it felt so good to go, okay, I've released that. This is what I was doing. There was a little part of me that felt bad because what I'm doing for everyone who took Selling with Soul, the course, I am gifting them the program. All of them get to take the program with my live coaching for free one time. Now the modules, everyone gets live access to, and obviously the scripts and stuff, but they get to have the live coaching element with it one time. And I was like, God, I'm sure they were really excited for that, blah, blah, blah. But again, if I'm not able to show up in the best spirits, my best energy, my best mood, then I'm shortchanging you guys. And that's not right. Because what do I always say, right? Like ProjectME is, you are the most exceptional project of your life. You can't fake energy. You can't out-strategize a shitty mindset. I'd be totally out of integrity. And then what happens is that's an abundance blocker. Then I wouldn't have a 6-figure launch if I did that. I know that this launch, had I done it in 2020, would have for sure been a 6-figure launch. Number one, my numbers are even higher now. My list is bigger. My audience is even more engaged. My business really, really blew up even further over the whole quarantine thing. People are hungry for it more than ever. And I had to be willing to not have that additional, 6 figures to say how much more money my company made in 2020. I had to let that go. And that was my ego. Who gives a shit, right? Who gives a shit? Does that fucking matter? This by the end of this year, this company's will make around like $500,000. So does it really matter? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters to you or not. I just want you guys to check your ego, and how you do that is by tapping into your body. If you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling anxiety, and it's not anxiety like I'm afraid of showing up or I'm afraid of failure. I didn't have any of those things. There was no afraid of failure. There was no doubt in my mind how successful it was going to be. It wasn't that. It just felt exhausting and draining. It didn't feel exciting to me at all. And it's like, I created this company for it to be, pure joy and transformation and transfusion of, my energy to you. So it's like that didn't make sense. So I want you to listen to your body. If your body is really, really fighting something, maybe now isn't the right time. Maybe you're pushing yourself too much. Maybe you are chasing. Maybe it's time that you need to really learn another way. Maybe you've been going at it on your own for so long and it's not working and you're wanting to quit. You've got to be willing to do something 180 degrees different. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same exact spot next year. I was willing to turn down that cash, do something different than was planned, than was even announced, all of that. Willing to do that for the greatest good of myself and the greatest good of my community, to all of you. So you have to be willing to do it too. Now, there's some of you who really do need to go all in, and your resistance and discomfort is in the fact, you have a damn jobby, an expensive and tiring hobby, and that you've been toe dipping, and you need to go all in, and that resistance in your body doesn't feel good either. And likely you've been in that resistance for years. So it's either you need to pull back or you need to go all in. But regardless, it's a major change. You need to change something. If something isn't feeling good, if something isn't working, if something isn't connecting, and it's not just been one fucking week, right? It's been a few months. And it's not connecting, it's not working, you feel irritable and you have discontent and you're starting to get unmotivated and frustrated and you keep falling into the comparisonitis loop over and over again. I'm telling you right now, that is a clear sign that you need to take contrary action and do something drastically different. Maybe it's that you need to book a 90-minute private business coaching session with me to get your head on straight, get a profitable niche nailed, be clear on your ideal client, and at least get the start of a plan. Which, by the way, I've opened up my final 90-minute coaching spots for the year. I opened them up yesterday. So you can go to my link in bio at ProjectME with Tiffany, and they're there, or go to my website, ProjectMeWithTiffany.com, under Work With Me, and they're there. These sell out really quickly, especially because these are the last ones I will be offering in 2020. And these are all usually sold out in less than 10 days. So I would make sure you grab your time slot. They're only $497. And this is to at least, so you can at very least have a clear plan. Stop wondering, is this the right niche? Am I going after the right thing? Why isn't my content landing? I'm going to go to Google University. I'm going to do another webinar. I'm going to buy another, low ticket course. If none of that shit has been working, and it's been months, okay, not like a couple weeks, because not everything we touch turns to gold, and everything does take time, right? It's like I say, it's like a snowball going down a hill that's not super steep, maybe like a 30% degree hill. And it's a slow snowball, like with business. So it does take time. But if you are feeling that disconnect, that not motivated, uninspired, frustration, disappointment, all that shit, it's time to do something drastically different. Maybe for you, it's that you need to stop being a cheap ass and you need to invest in someone who knows what the hell they're doing and stop trying to figure it out on your own. That was me, by the way, after 5 years into my first business. Now, it wasn't a thing to have like a business coach. That wasn't very accessible. It was only accessible to like top executives at corporations or celebrities or athletes. It wasn't a thing then. So I didn't even know what, to look for it. It's not like I was scrolling on Facebook back then and I saw that there were people doing this. There wasn't. There was like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins. And thankfully, I was humble enough and got to the point of frustration enough where I really wanted to quit. Like I was over it. I was like, I need help. And I put it out there into the universe. And thankfully the universe delivered. And that's when I hired, my first high level business coach. Like I didn't fuck around. I wasn't going to hire someone who maybe has been in business a year or maybe has made, a couple $100,000. Like I wanted to learn from someone who's really made it. Like he's $100 million, right? I already knew how to make 6 figures. I was already making that in my corporate job. I wanted to like really blow it up and do something that I truly love to do. So maybe you need to stop being cheap. Maybe you need to stop pushing and forcing and being so thirsty for it. Maybe you need to take a pause and regroup and see if you're really doing something you love, or are you doing it because you're good at it? Or are you doing it because your ego would tell you you're a failure if you don't do it? Is it something that just doesn't light you up anymore because we change and we grow in life and things don't match up, right? So you've got to be willing to do something drastically different if you want different results. But if you are in that spot of that like self-imposed purgatory where you're indecisive and you're not sure, should I niche in this? Should I pivot? Should I leave this network marketing company? Should I quit my job? Should I do a course? Should I start a podcast? Right? If you're in that spin, which I really get what that spin is like because I can spin too, you need to like basically put the pen down, honey, like put it down and go, okay, what major action can I take right now that's going to help me get clarity on where I need to go? Is that action, doing a 90-minute session with Tiffany? Is that action pushing a pause on my business and giving myself a full 2 weeks to regroup and disconnect and really, tap into myself and my intuition? Is it that you need to have some hard conversations in your life? Is it that you need to pull back and not launch something you were going to launch? Maybe cancel whatever you were going to do on Black Friday and not just do Black Friday because everyone's doing Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And now you feel like you have to. Maybe you don't this year. Maybe you don't do it because you've been pushing and forcing too much and it wouldn't go well anyway because you can't fake energy and it would end up being an abundance blocker, right? So you either need to pull back or you need to push forward. One of the two is needing to happen if you're in that state. And now it's your choice. Since you've heard this, now it's a choice of yours. If you choose to stay in that self-imposed purgatory, and some people do because it's comfortable there. And then they can just use the excuse of, I'm confused, I'm stuck, I'm spinning, I'm not sure what I want to do. Well, if you've been stuck and spinning and not sure what you want to do and confused, and this has lasted, quite frankly, I would say longer than a solid 2 weeks, this is not good. That's a form of self-sabotage because now you're in action. You're not in any action. So in a sense, your ego's in charge and you're safe, but it can feel like you're in action because you're overthinking and your brain is churning on stuff. And then when you tell people in your life, oh, well, I'm stuck and I'm torn between this and I'm processing and I'm working through it, it can even sound like to other people like you're kind of taking action when you're really not doing shit. So it's time to do something. I promise you it feels so much better. Anything that looks like a short-term loss where you go, yeah, but I'm going to lose money. Yeah, but, so-and-so's doing this and, I know I can do it better and I don't know why it's not working. So what? So what? You've got to listen to your body. Your head will lie to you. Your heart will even lie to you. Listen to your body. Do you have tightness in your throat? Do you have fatigue? Are you losing your motivation? Are you starting to dread doing things, right? Because the very reason we got into, I'd like to think, for business for ourselves, or those of you who are side hustling, is to do something that we love, that excites us. So I want you to take note of that. Hear my story. And that's the beautiful thing. Sometimes we need to pull back in order to spring way ahead, right? Kind of like a bow and arrow. Now, that's normally what someone with my personality needs to do. But I would say this, about 90% of the world is the opposite, where you guys have been pulled back and you're being held under that tension. Imagine holding a bow and arrow and you're holding it back for a long time, years, months. You'd start quivering and shaking. That's a lot of pressure and a lot of tension. And it's time to release and go forward and risk for that arrow hitting the ground and missing the mark, because you can only hold that back so long. You've got to let go. If you love this episode, will you please, for the love of God, do me a favor and write a 5-star written iTunes review. I have a goal of getting us to 400 5-star written iTunes reviews by the end of the year. Of course, I'm welcome for more. But if this show or this episode has really helped you in any way, you really want to show gratitude, whether it's someone's post, that you read. I don't care if, if they're a famous person. Like and comment on the post, share the post. That's how you show gratitude for things. Show gratitude for this amazing free content that we offer on this show. This is not cheap for me to put out a podcast at this level, right? It's my time. I have a producer. I have a coordinator. There's show notes. There's all sorts of things that go into it. So I would really appreciate you showing the gratitude, leaving a 5-star written iTunes review. If you don't know how to do it, you can Google it. It will take you no more than 90 seconds of your time. In turn, for me to show my love and appreciation for my active listeners, just DM me on Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany and let me know you left a review. Obviously, make sure you put your name or your Instagram handle in your damn review so I can, see that you did leave the review. And I would love to treat you to a coffee drink of your choice, or if you're one of like those celery juice drinkers, which I do, but it's really only for pooping purposes. I'll buy you, pressed juice, treat you to a coffee drink of your choice. I will not treat you to a pumpkin spice latte. That's the only rule around what I'm treating you to. Like, you must not drink a pumpkin spice latte when I'm treating you to a coffee drink. Not happening. All right. Thank you for going and leaving that review. Again, you do not have to have an Apple account or an Apple phone or anything like that in order to leave a 5-star written iTunes review. Thank you so much, you guys. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.